Hey everyone, I'm Steph and she's Kayla, and we are Margin Mavens. Today's episode is about A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon, and it will be the final installment in our Pride Month series. If you have not read the book and are planning on it, this is your warning that the following video will contain spoilers, but you can always come back to it once you've read the book. In addition, down below you will find timestamps for the various sections since this is a long video. And as a heads up, there will be mentions of child loss within this video, namely in part 3. Now, onto the video. So we jumped back into the world of Priory with A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. This is the technically prequel, right? It follows, I think it's just shy of like 5 centuries before the Priory. So right off the bat, I will say that I immediately, upon finishing the prologue, had to go and map out the characters and who they were and the connections. So in the prologue, we find out that there's a lot of moving parts. Similar to the Priory, each chapter is based on like a geographical location, and each geographical location ties to a specific character. We once again see the Queendom of Innis, right? And we see Sabrin the Ambitious. We see the namesake for the Sabrin that we knew and loved.
Our
Sabrin. Which, for the sake of talking about it, will probably always be the way that we describe her.
Right.
But we meet Sabrin the Ambitious. She is daughter of Marion, and she weds the King of Roth and gives birth to Glorian. Then we meet, how do we say this? Tanuva? We meet her.
Yes, Tuva.
She is 49 years old, which I found so interesting because...
No, she's not. Stop lying.
She's 49. Are you just finding this out for the first time?
Maybe?
Yeah, she's 49 because she specifically talks later on about her relationship with Esbar.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
They were 20.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah,
and it's been
like, she's 49.
Wild.
And so she is, my original notes for her say she's a close friend to Esbar. They are lovers. They are girlfriends. They are wives. Then in another geographical location, we get the Kingdom of Psyche. We meet Unora, right? She's like, I can't let them know who I am. So she tells them that her name is Unora. She is believed to be a spirit, so the Empress lets her stay, right? And then mysteriously, surprisingly, secretly, she starts sleeping with the Emperor.
Yep.
Not knowing he's the Emperor, but...
Except the rest of us knew that.
Yeah, except the rest of us knew because of the gifts that he was giving her. I was like, this isn't just some random dude that keeps coming by the court. This is somebody that has power, has money, has the ability to come in and not be seen, not be stopped. She ends up pregnant, right? And the Emperor, and now that I'm thinking about it, we don't even know if the Emperor, I guess when I first read that, I thought the Emperor was the one sending her the herb. But it probably wasn't him, because he would have loved to have...
Yeah. No, it wasn't him.
It wasn't him. Okay.
It was probably one of the
Kaposa. Yeah. Anyway, so she leaves and she goes to the island and she becomes maiden officiant, right? Because the Grand Empress takes her in. Right. Or the older Grand Empress takes her in. We meet Wolf, who I love, who I have a lot of theories about. But so with the prologue, a lot of characters get introduced, a lot of moving parts. We also get that Esbar is giving birth, right? She gives birth to a baby girl named Siadi. And later on in part 1, Siadi is now 17, I believe. And
then around there, yeah.
And she is a rascal. She is confined to the Priory, as is Priory rules. But she is like...
Don't give a
Yeah, she is trying to be like the wind and go everywhere. And I respect that for her. I think it'd be really difficult for me to only have this one community, guys. So then we get into part 1. And we start seeing the effects of the things that were happening. Right? So we've got Dumai, who is 27. She is the daughter of Unora. right? And so we find out that she is that baby that Unora was escaping with.
Yes.
We as the reader find this out. Dumai has no idea. The thoughts that I got with part 1, right, which we can break them down a little bit, but essentially I've got Espar is really harsh towards Sayu.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that is very conducive to like Sayu wanting to be a part of the fold.
Mm-hmm.
I love Glorian and her father. At this point, I was shipping her with Wolf. Demise is my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
But Tanova is really high up there. What did you think of part 1?
All my things about part 1 were the parallels between the characters in this book compared to Priory, like Tanae and Dumai being along a similar vein, so to speak, like not really knowing much about their past or their parents, and then, you know, the path that they take moving forward. Trying to say it in a way that's not so spoilery.
Yeah.
With certain stuff and things. And then Sabrin, obviously, in Glorian, that sort of like Glorian kind of like finding herself and stepping into herself, but also like not wanting to really like get married and have children thing, like that parallel right there kills me every time. And then the Tuva and Espar, just the Nicolays parallels there.
Yeah, they're cute.
Makes me nervous. But it's so much gayer than Priory already in part 1 that just made me so happy.
Okay. So then part 2 happens. And a lot of things start happening in part 2. You could tell that Miss Shannon here was busy, right? She was like, things are about to go south.
She set the plot in part 1 and then was like, all right, here are the consequences.
She introduced all the players, right? She put them on the board. And then in part 2, she started moving them. First and foremost, that red sickness.
Yeah.
It's actually heartbreaking reading about the red sickness having already read Priory.
Yes.
Because we know the toll that this sickness is going to have, right? And so to be there at the like epicenter, to be there at the beginning, and to see how they obviously had no idea what they were getting into. They had no idea what was affecting them, how to stop it, if it could be stopped. And for us to be like, man, 500 years later, this is still something that exists and that is being dealt with and is killing people. It was really heartbreaking. Wolf, I think.
Oh, Wolf.
Is adorable. I still like the idea of him and Glorian, but not out of love, but out of he is coming across as a little fruity.
Oh, he's at the very least, at the bare fucking minimum, bisexual.
Yeah, he's a chaotic bi man because he has this whole thing going on with Regni, but then like makes a point, like the author keeps making a point of saying how he views Thrit.
Right, yeah.
And I'm like, all right, listen.
They gay. They are gay.
I could understand if that becomes something of like Glorian being like, oh, this guy, right, is nice to me. I know he will treat me well.
Yes.
I'm not gonna have to be like attached to him.
Yes.
In order to continue this. So that's kind of where my mind goes with them.
But like obviously she's gonna have a thing with Tulane.
Yeah.
I refuse to believe that there is not something there.
Yeah, we'll get there. So Queen Sabrin and Glorian's father had all of the elements to be two people that like hated each other.
Correct.
And yet they fall for each other earnestly. They fall for each other authentically. They really were the ones that shaped the world as we knew it in Priory. And they do not get the credit that they deserve for doing so. The good and the bad. Glorian and her father gave me so much joy because he could have easily just viewed her kind of like how Sayu's dad does, where he's there, he cares about her, but he's not really hands-on, right? As is the way of the Priory. But this king is 100% like, hey, you are
like blood of my blood.
You are blood of my blood.
My
you need to remember, like, you are also Princess of the North, right? Like, you have birthright to both. You can do these things. You are stronger than you feel. He's also very quick to be like, I am a king. However, if somebody hurts you, I will kill them and bear those consequences. And I love him for that.
Yes.
So with part 2, they really build the relationships between Glorian and her parents, right? Sabrin is slowly starting to warm up to her and show that despite the fact that she's been really cold and indifferent to her, she truly does love her. But I think Sabrin was very stuck on trying not to repeat the trauma that she was dealt. And so she's constantly trying to make sure that the world around her is moving in the direction she thinks it needs to, and she's not really paying attention to her daughter as much.
Right.
Her father like calls her out on this and is like, you need to love her more, because she like doesn't even know that you love her. And I think that they have like that argument. One thing that kind of gives me ick in this part was when Glorian like
watches her parents.
Yeah, that was wild. I like stopped and I was like, Glorian, I need you to get out of this situation.
And that, dear listeners, is why comprehensive sexual education in schools is so important.
Yeah. Have somebody, even in that time, have like a handmaiden.
Explain it.
So that she's not going like, I need to know what happens between companions, and then watches her parents get it on. I can't.
No, it was too much.
It was bad. It was bad.
For me.
One thing that made me scream, right?
One thing
is when Wolf makes a point of saying that all he remembers is these dreams of bees.
Yep.
Because Tanuva makes a point of saying that the person that she chose to be the father of her son, who mysteriously died and they never found the body, she chose him because he was kind and patient and could always get the bees. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my God, Wolf is her son. I will take no other answer. There's no point of creating that one sentence, especially with how writing works, right? Every author chooses every single syllable, every single comma purposefully. No way. You can't tell me otherwise. Whatchamacallit? Regni, I think, is badass.
Yes.
When the red sickness happens and Wolf is afflicted but doesn't get sick, right? He starts kind of avoiding everybody because he's like, I have no idea why this isn't happening to me. We know, right, as the audience, that it's because of what DNA he shares. But he has like no idea of what's going on. And she like kisses him. They get incredibly close, right? And he's like, hey, we promised we wasn't going to do this no more. And she's like, okay, but I'm just showing you that I am not afraid of nothing. So stop avoiding me like I'm the plague. Glorian gets told that she has to marry somebody. She's upset about it. We find out she does not have to marry this person, right? That another person is going to marry. And so her mom and her dad go off to see this wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And the conversation that Glorian has with Sabrin and her father very quickly showed me that they were not making it out of this.
Nope.
When the king is talking to his daughter and he's like, you know, way off in the future, when your mother and I have gray hair, you have had a kid, like everything is cool. We are going to all live in the North and we will see each other every day. I immediately wrote that down and was like, why are you talking like this?
Yep.
Then Sabrin goes on and like randomly has a moment of, you know, I was cold with you, but it is because the crown is heavy. It is a hard life, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, Sabrin, what are you doing? And then Glorian makes a point of telling her, like, I will be a good queen.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, man. Oh, no. Something is about to go terribly wrong.
Yep.
And so undoubtedly they're on this boat heading off to this wedding, and a giant dragon shows up. I do not believe it to be the nameless one. I believe it to be
No, I think it's Firedale.
yeah, one of the generals, right? Like I don't think it was the nameless one, but a dragon shows up and immediately, like on sight, he stood on business, roasts the king and the queen.
Yep.
And their last moments made me really emotional because they like don't
They
fight
held
it. They held hands.
Nope.
They went for each other. He tried to block her body, knowing that nothing was going to help. And then this entire ship basically gets roasted alive. And so our last moments with Wolf is the fact that he ends up holding Regni as she is like dying. And he's like,
I don't think Wolf is dead.
I don't think he's dead. But the fact that he was like, oh, because he like makes a point of saying like, I'm going to stand up. And if my last moments are here, like only witches will burn in fire. Let it be the truth or whatever. And he like stands up, right? I don't think he's dead. The part 3 has like a quote where Wolf is mentioned, like the name Wolf is mentioned. So I don't think he's dead. It's just too important.
Did you because I went and found the translation
what does it say?
Of it. Yes. Wolf is on an island, I on another. That island is secure, surrounded by fen, which is like marsh.
Solid.
Things like that.
Solid. Yeah. Solid.
And then it is different with us.
Yeah, so I think Wolf and his mother will have that connection.
I think he ends up at the Priory.
I don't know if he ends up at the Priory, but they somehow meet.
He ends up on that island.
Something happens. No, part 2 was really painful.
Part 2 was really painful. While you grab your book, can we talk about Dumai and Nakia, who are like so enemies to lovers coded? I can't
literally
stand it.
Literally.
I can't stand it.
I was like, if this does not end up the way
if they're not gay for each other, Your Honor.
I think it's very Iad and Sabrin coded. Because they started off like not really knowing what to make of each other. Iad was like, this is my enemy. And then she was like, I don't think so, actually.
I wonder if rather than ending the way that Iad and Sabrin did, it will end up in a more tragic way. Because I don't know if Nakia really cares for Dumai.
Yeah,
or is just looking to get close for power. Yes.
Yeah, she's a wild card. She's a Kuposa. We can't trust the Kuposas.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I think like Wolf really hurts. I think the part where he specifically like he's like going around the ship and he like finds his friend Belle and he's like, that's not Belle.
Yeah.
Because obviously they're all like roasted to smithereens and stuff. I think that part 3 is going to be devastating. I think that the rest of this book really is gonna hurt. I'm hoping. Putting it out there. We're manifesting. I do not want any of our main characters to die.
Okay.
I think Wolf is in a similar situation as I forgot his name, the guy from Priory. Yeah, and we called him Loth.
Loth.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, readers. We're keeping that in. I need y'all to see what we're like. I think he's in a similar position to Loth in the fact that like Loth was on his own little like side quests for majority of the book and like loses Kit, which still hurts. I think this ship is Kit. Like
that's that parallel.
Yeah, this ship is
right there.
The ship that Wolf is on is Kit. Just the whole thing. I think Glorian will choose a companion.
Because
the problem is I don't remember the stories about her in Priory very well, other than the fact that she has to be well loved by her successors. Like, I don't remember.
She has to for the bloodline to keep going.
Yeah. We know that part. But I mean, like, I think she's going to, like, go out of her way to pick one soon.
Yeah.
And I'm really hoping it's Wolf. Just so that she doesn't have to be with anybody that's going to be, like, cruel to her or anything like that.
Do we think that Canth or can't they?
I don't trust her.
Is the lady.
Yeah, I don't
The
trust
lady in the
her.
woods.
I think something is up. I think because the only person, because Lady of the Woods knew about the Hawthorne.
Mm-hmm.
That's how she had power.
Correct.
If I'm not talking smack, I'm gonna have to like bring out Priory and do like side by side. But that's how she had power. I don't think it's a coincidence. I don't think coincidence exists in the world of Samantha Shannon. And so the fact that Tanova takes her on this like tour, and then literally within like 5 pages, these like eggs randomly show up next to the tree.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, I think Canth is a snake. And I don't trust her. We will be in pain.
Yep.
I don't want anybody I care about to die, you know?
Yeah, there's so many more characters in this book that I care about than in Priory.
Yeah, there's a lot of characters. Listen, I literally wrote in my book, if Kanifa, the friend of Dumai, dies, I will burn this world to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
If he passes, I will burn this world to the ground. So I think it was the third part of A Day of Fallen Night.
Gosh darn it, Samantha Shannon.
Yeah.
Is the nicest way I can think of putting that. If I catch you on the streets, Miss Ma'am, we're gonna have to fight.
I am upset.
I'm so
So, guys, audience members, beloveds, I don't know if you recall, but a couple minutes, well, for you guys, a couple minutes ago when we were talking about what we wanted and what we didn't want, right? And I specifically said, if Kanifa dies, I'm burning this place to the ground.
Yeah.
Well, I had to find my lighter in this part.
Yeah, I immediately thought of you.
I literally wrote it in the book. Like, cool, where is my lighter? Yeah, I think a lot of things started connecting in the third part. Like, I was wondering, how was Wolf gonna meet with Tanuva? How was
what about Glorian? Like, what was Glorian's life gonna look like without her parents?
Yeah, I was like, what was this gonna look like? There were a lot of questions going into the third part.
And still even more questions.
Yeah, we still have a lot of questions. So,
and the fourth part, not that big.
Yeah, so for you guys listening, once again, we're filming these as we finish the parts. So we still have to read the fourth part, right? The original plan was we were going to read the third and fourth and then just talk about the ending of the book. But third part is like 300 and something pages by itself. So we finished the third part. We're going to read the fourth part, film it at the end of this week. Everything will be fine. Yeah, so I'm looking through my notes and stuff within my book, and there's a part where when they're starting to scale or get down from the mountain, right? Yeah. And Kanifa is talking, and he's like, "Oh, we can try." I literally underlined it and went, "Remember, if he dies, whole place in flames." Because I just kind of knew. I knew that this poor guy who loved Dumai and would do anything in the world he could for her. Like, I 100% knew, like, if push came to shove, he would be sacrificing himself. And I'm really sad that I was right.
And it is really sad because how can I put this in a way that is, coherent? I hope that he wasn't murdered for the sake of Dumai and Nakia. Like, I don't think characters necessarily need to die in order for other characters to get together. Like, I'm tired of I'm tired of the trope where the other love interest has to die. Like, I'm a big fan of polycules. They don't all have to connect. Like, there's no reason why they all couldn't love each other in some capacity. So, like, I hope that's not what's happening. And even though, like, the way that the third part finished up with Dumai and Nakia going their separate ways, I do think they'll find a way back to each other.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it was a matter of love interest. I think it was a lot more like if he was alive, he would probably have made it harder for her have made it harder for the third part to end the way that it did.
Right.
Because he'd be like, no, we have to, like, we can do it together and, like, stick to our plan to go against these bad people. Whereas with him not there, I don't know, it made it to where it was a cleaner break for her.
Right.
I think the overarching thing is that she needs to go and create her own court, and I don't think she would have been so quick to walk away if she still had things tying her to that area.
That's a good point too, yeah.
Yeah, trust Nakia.
I still don't.
I think there's a bigger reason why she does whatever her father says. Because she, like, makes a point of saying, like, I'm even in that dollhouse, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think there's a bigger play there. There's a spot. There's a spot where don't know how to pronounce her name. Cantha? Yeah. There's a spot where she is talking to they're talking about their grief of having lost children, right? Which 100% now we know.
To Nova?
Yeah. We, like, now 100% know that, like, Cantha is the lady in the woods.
Yes.
Which I think, looking back, I don't remember what her name was in Priory.
I could dig it up if I really wanted to, but I don't right now.
Yeah, I don't remember if maybe it was just, like, in her head. Hold on. In her head the entire time. No, because in Priory she's known as Caliba.
Yeah, but she had infiltrated. They talk about in Priory how she had infiltrated the Priory as somebody else.
Yeah. So, like, probably was in our face the whole time. There's a spot where they're talking about the loss of a child, right? Because Tanova at that point had believed that her son had died, and I forget who says it, right? But there's a spot that I really liked, and it's
highlighted it.
Yeah, and they talk about this pain, and then I don't know who says it, but it's basically like that your pain is not mine, but I know its shape.
Yes.
And I underlined it, and I said, like, I loved the way that was put. It's probably one of my favorite lines in this book thus far, because I think it's an incredibly important message of empathy towards someone else. Where if you have that shared grief, that shared trauma, you might not have experienced the exact same thing, right? But you're able to recognize how that could impact someone. And I just thought that was really beautiful. And it's not enough for me to forgive Samantha, but it was really nice. Knowing that she's a lady in the woods.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want her near Tuva. Like, I don't want her at all in the slightest in this book whatsoever. I want her to, like, disappear from one page to the next. Obviously that's not realistic. I think I'm really upset, I guess, that a deeper conversation between Espar and Tuva didn't happen when they got back home.
Not yet, yeah.
And, like, Tuva telling her, and, like, Tuva telling her, like, hey, this happened. Because I know that I have a bad feeling that it's going to pop up.
Yep.
Not by their hands.
Yep.
And that's going to really set things off in a bad
way. There's going to be a really gross betrayal in the fourth part. And it's going to really hurt. And I hate it. Yeah,
and so I'm not looking forward to that. I think Cantha is the sole reason that everything has gone bad in the Priory. I think she planted the eggs. I think
100%. She is 100% the reason for all of that.
Yeah, she made Siyu see her loved one.
She also pretended to be the prioress to tell Hadath to kill. Yeah, no, she set
everything.
it all up.
Everything has been bad. Everything has been bad. I I think like Dumai and Glorian being connected was really cool, right? We see
Now, hold on a second. Were they really connected, or was it just Canthe connecting them and making them think that they were connected to
I
get Dumai to where she needed Dumai to be?
No, I think they're really connected. Because even after the incident, Glorian still like reaches out to her. I think they're really connected, right? So if we take what we know about the Lady of the Woods, she shares the bloodline with Glorian.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that it is something within that bloodline that allows them to do it.
With the Sidon.
With the Sidon. And because Glorian and her are from that same bloodline, they have that ability.
Mm-hmm.
And because Sabrin even talked about how she had those dreams, but that they were from the saint. Right? So I think Marion, with what we know about her like quietness, she's not going to tell anybody that she's got dreams. I think it has something to do with the bloodline, which is why Canthe was able to like get into it and murk it about. The person I really want to talk about here is my good old boy Wolf. I love him.
That poor child.
I love him dearly.
Poor child.
I'm so happy to have been right in the sense that I said that there was going to be something between him and Glorian, not in like the normal like they're going to fall in love way, but in the like he is going to be something to her in the continuation of this kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
I now think knowing what we know about Wolf, I think it's going to be really interesting because now he has like Priory of the Orange Tree blood, and we know that he does. And now he has just become the father to like the next queen, which I think is going to be interesting. And it shows that like the mixing. Wolf and Thrit, super cute. Hoping Thrit doesn't die.
I swear to God, I know you were all team burn down if Kanifa dies, but I will be team burn shit down if Thrit dies.
Yeah,
I will not be okay.
Yeah, that one's gonna be rough. I like the fact that he's like very straight up like, oh, you go nowhere without me. Whole thing. Carl, I think, got exactly what he deserved.
Amen.
I'm not mad.
I'm not upset about it.
I'm not mad about his death to Dragon.
I wish it was worse, to be honest.
Yeah, I think he like really sucked. Seeing our old friend, she has a really long name. The Shallows of the blue dragon, the big one.
Yeah.
The N.
Yep.
Can't pronounce her name for the life of me, but I really liked seeing her. I liked seeing like her connection to this, and it makes a lot more sense as to why she was so knowledgeable.
Yes.
When Tane came into the equation hundreds of years later, because she was like, "Oh boy, I saw that thing before."
Yeah. Been there, done that.
Yeah, so like I think that makes sense a lot. Espar, I think, is getting a little bit on my nerves. Like I understand where she's coming from.
The amount of pressure she's under.
Yeah, like I get it. She's not in an easy position whatsoever, and I think realistically, if I was in her position, I probably wouldn't be acting that much different. I'd probably be acting a little crazier if some random lady came in and suddenly everything is going to crap. And then now the like love of my life, who I've been with for like 30 years, is like off on adventures with this random lady. I would probably be a little strung out as well. But she is getting on my nerves from like a audience standpoint. I feel for her as a woman. Glorian having to marry that old guy really sucks. I'm glad though that he is not expecting any sort of bed stuff with her, which is cool because I think that wasn't
that wasn't what he was going there to do. Like he was going there to convince her to break away from the saint. So like he knew he knew what he was doing. Like he knew that the choices that he made, he is approaching it from a standpoint of I want to get Gloria.
I want her to be on my side. Yeah. Like I don't want her to be creeped out by me.
Right.
It is interesting having already read Priory to kind of know that no matter how this book is stressing me out, right? We know that like our guys win. We're not sure who makes it out, but we know we know the history that's going to fall here. And so that's kind of helping the amount of stress that I'm dealing with because I know like, oh, this line is going to continue. Glorian does not step away from the same. She does have an heir. Like, all of these things are set for us because we know, like, Sabrin exists. Like, our Sabrin exists.
Right.
I'm
a little upset. I kind of wish I had read this book before Priory, because I feel like a lot of what is coming in part 4 and what we discover in Priory would have been much more impactful had I not already read Priory.
Yeah, I think, well, I was looking into it when we were deciding to read Priory, and a lot of the people on the internet, you know, the almighty internet that knows all, the people were very like, oh, it doesn't truly matter which way you read it, but either way, for either book, you're going to get like a massive spoiler no matter which way you did it. And so that is why I just opted to read it in publication order
of publication. Yep.
I don't know if I would have survived this book if I didn't already know that, like, things like the kingdom would survive and the Priory would survive. Good, yeah, I guess. I'm not a glutton for punishment.
I might be a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for Glorian and Julaine to.
I don't think it's happening.
I don't think it's happening, but that would be a pleasant surprise for part 4.
Yeah, I don't think it's happening. I would like Glorian. Okay, so predictions for part 4.
Glorian kills her husband.
Yeah, Glorian is no longer with old guy. Manages to actually marry someone she wants to marry, or chooses to not be married at all. But I want it to be her choice.
Right.
Wolf and Thrit live happily ever after, and do not give us any parallels to Niklaus.
No, that's Tuva and Espar.
Oh,
I think that's
that makes more sense. That doesn't happen either.
Ambitious of you.
Dumai successfully creates another court.
Yes.
But a part of me does want her to come back and take her own court back and just have the dragons, like, vouch for her.
No, I want the River Lord to die.
Well, yeah, that's how I want the dragons to vouch for her, is by breathing whatever they do onto the River Lord.
Just freeze him to death, please.
I want Glorian to do something badass.
She's already done something badass.
I know, but I want her to, like,
rest.
No. I want her to, like, wield her sword and kill a worm.
I want Siu to
be happy.
Fucking step up. I want her to step up. I appreciate it's interesting because watching Siu and Glorian, how they're around the same age, I think, ish. Maybe Siu is a little bit older, and like the paths that they've taken. And it's just like, holy, like, please, can you please grow up just a smidge? You have a child now. Please.
I think
I would like to see that.
I think I'm team Siu though, because she, like, Tuva makes a point of, when she sees her again, of noting, like, all of the scars and all of the, like, signs of battle that she's been in. I think she has stepped up. I just don't think she is a focal point of the story, and so we're not learning about the things that she's doing. I think she stepped up the moment that she saw the dragon come out of the earth. Yeah, I think that was a point for her to be like, okay, I need to, like, be with the Priory.
Yeah.
It broke my heart that when Tuva brings Wolf in, Siu's first thought is like, I'm glad, because now you don't have to be embarrassed by me anymore.
That did hurt. Like, I especially think, because she has Tuva's name. Like,
last part of A Day of Hollow Night. It has been a week since we spoke about the book. The first thing I want to say is that I kind of hurt myself.
Yeah.
Like, very early on, because I was trying to see where the, like, glossary was, right? Where it says, because I know that she always puts, like, who the people are and, like, whatever. And so as I was trying to find the glossary, I saw one that the chapter or the section started being named after the people and not the places.
Yeah.
So then I saw Nikaya get her chapter and not Dumai. Yeah. And I hurt myself very early on.
Yeah. I loved it.
Yeah. I don't have, like, a ton to say.
The pacing threw me off.
yeah, it got very fast. I think Miss Shannon was like, I'm already at 600 pages.
Let's wrap this.
I need to wrap it up. And she wrapped it up, but man, oh man. We get a lot of understanding as to why things are the way they were in the Priory, right? So
Yes.
we got the answers as to why was Iad even in the palace to begin with? Why did the Priory suddenly care about
protecting
that line? And so then we figure out it's because they learned that Wolf's blood and thus Tuva's blood was going to be in the royal line from that point on. So they wanted to make sure that was protected. So we get an understanding of that. We get an understanding as to why it was no longer, why when we meet the Lord of Psyche, he is known as the warlord. He's not known as like a king. And so we get an understanding because Nakia changes that, I think, out of respect for Dumai and her line. They leave it really up in the air about what happens to Dumai, I think. Because it's never explicitly stated that she dies.
Yeah, because they didn't find her body.
And then Nakia has like a random person comes up to her and gives her like a comb. Yeah. So I'm thinking she becomes like a water spirit or is like one with the gods now. That's where I'm going with that. I think
I like that we see where the stones end up. The stones, like crystals,
we see why they ended up where they were.
They were, yes.
Yeah, we're like, okay, because I remember reading Priory and being like, okay, but how did this stone end up in this tomb?
Right.
If they didn't believe in that stuff. And then we realized that Wolf was like, no one's going to look here. Yeah. I think Wolf was my favorite.
I love that.
Yeah, I think Wolf was my favorite.
Glorian was my favorite.
Glorian, I think really
she grew up.
She really grew up really quickly, and she grew up in such a cool way. I think it's really interesting. So obviously, having read both books now, I can see a lot of the parallels, and so it's really interesting to see that Glorian never wanted like to get married or have kids. So it was kind of interesting that our Sabrin would name her kid that she really didn't want. She also didn't want to get married, Glorian, and then it like didn't work out kind of thing. So that's Samantha Shannon's brain is interesting. The parts that always kind of make me not sad, but they're a little bittersweet is the fact that like Wolf and Glorian would not be able to continue being friends or as close for like a long time.
Yep.
Yeah. And he was like, you know, in his point of view, it was like, oh, this will probably be the last time for a really long time that I get to see Glorian, because obviously there can't be rumors of not being
illegitimacy or anything like that.
So that was really painful to me, but I like that he ends up at the end realizing the truth and stuff when he goes to see the Priory and everything. He like learns the truth, and so despite getting the like knighthood and everything from Glorian, he like leaves it and he's like, no, I'm just gonna go travel the world because I don't think I could be a knight under this false,
which is such an
narrative.
Interesting difference compared to Ardaloth.
Yeah,
who
he
like
was having a meltdown,
was on the verge of a breakdown when he discovered the truth.
Yeah, well,
so it was really nice.
I think for Loth, it was very difficult for him because he didn't have any ties to the outside. Wolf was very much like, this is where I was supposed to be, and so he had to make that reconciliation of like, oh, I need to like figure myself out.
Yeah,
the frickin' witch.
Can't they? AKA the Witch in the Woods.
Yeah,
But we knew.
We knew. But I sympathized with her a little bit, which was odd for me because I was not expecting to. But I definitely sympathized with her for a little bit, with her kind of being like, oh, I did this really evil thing, 20 something years ago, but I was not expecting like I did not foresee the fact that I would like genuinely fall in love with the person who
Right.
I had hurt.
Right.
So I felt a little sympathy there, but then, it was quickly erased with everything else. I liked seeing kind of just how everything falls into place for the Priory, even though it's literally 500 years later. I did like a rabbit hole dive
Mm-hmm.
of timelines, and there's a good like 8 or 9 monarchs between what we just read and the like Priory, which is kind of interesting. But I liked seeing how Tuva and Esbar like made sure that the future would be prepared for the witch. I like that they were like, we're gonna write notes, we're gonna make sure it's all documented. I liked seeing how the Red Damsels came to play, because that's something that Iad was really excited about. And so to be like, oh, this is where it originated, is from her bloodline, so that was pretty cool. I think Tuva and Esbar having that conversation about the kiss finally was good. And I also just like that we find out that the reason Canthe doesn't come back for a really long time is because she's like making sure and waiting for Tuva to be dead.
Yes.
And so I like the fact that she like respects that, because it shows that like, as mean as she is, which granted, I don't know if at this point,
I don't know if she's really mean so much as
I think
hurt.
I think she's
misguided.
hurt. And I think it's interesting because she says it herself, and she's like, I'm going to become the evil thing. Like, I'm going to embody the stories that they're telling about me, which at that point she had done nothing minus the kidnapping of a child. She had done nothing to warrant that, like she was just like, this star is a terrible thing. We need to get rid of it. And we don't really, not sure what her end game was at that point. We know that she becomes very evil and is the bane of my existence and stuff.
More vengeful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But overall, I think the journey was a long one. Once again, I believe it's worth reading. I think a lot of people will see these books and go like, okay, but like, is it worth the amount of time and effort that's going into reading it? And I think so. I think if you break 100%. It up like we did and aren't just like binging it, I think it's really good.
I gave it 5 stars. I loved it more than Priory.
Yeah, and Samantha Shannon we trust. I understood why this book was longer because it was a lot more like politic heavy.
Yes. It was building a foundation that would lead to Priory in a way that would make sense.
Yeah, and I think I enjoyed reading Priory first, because while I think I would have understood Priory a lot better if I read it second, I did like the little moments of like, oh, that's why that happened, or oh, that's why this exists. So I don't think it really matters which.
I think it would have been easier for me to stomach Tane if I had read A Day of Fallen Night.
Because you really did hate Tane, yeah.
I really did. And like,
and
but seeing the parallel would have been really great, and it would have like kept me in there. And I would have been like, all right, how does this end? Does it end like Dumai? And then I would have been disappointed at the end, but that would have been fine because the parallels would have been there. And
yeah, I think it's because I didn't dislike Tane that I'm okay with reading it the way that we did. Because Dumai was my favorite.
Yeah.
And I would say
like the first Dragon Rider, right? Like,
yeah,
she was
like
the first.
Yeah, like I think, or the first in a really long time. Because
and then it led to them creating what Tane eventually joins.
And so Dumai was definitely one of my favorites. It was like really close tie with her and Wolf. And I think I really just like Wolf because of his like unwavering loyalty.
Yes.
To anybody that he thought was worth it. Yeah. Like he was like, all right, you got some weird magic thing, but I just found out you're my mom. So, I mean,
I got you.
But yeah, so in Samantha Shannon, we trust.
Thank you for listening to our 6th episode of Margin Mavens, where we talked about A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. If there are any more queer authors that you would like to hear us talk about, please leave a comment below. Stay tuned and stay gay, and if no one has told you this today, you are loved and you matter.